In this video today, I want to share with you a technique that I learned many years ago of how you can use other people's emotionally manipulative behavior to help you grow. Now, that might sound a really strange thing to say. How is it that you could possibly use another person's emotionally manipulative behavior or even abuse to help you grow? Now, I will say with this, you have to be very aware of your situation. This will only work in some environments, and I would not recommend it with every environment. For example, if it's something like domestic abuse or a very serious area where things could turn out dangerous, maybe if you push the boundaries, then personally, I'd recommend seeking further support, external maybe with the authorities as well. But this particular technique or example could be for if you've got, say you're at work and you might have somebody who's saying certain things, they're not being incredibly abusive, maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10, or it could be people that you know, a friend in a group, something like that. And they say something and it niggles you. It really gets under your skin and it frustrates you. And it could be that you don't say anything when they say that. You might not have the confidence. You might not have the self-esteem. So again, we take a situation that you may be in, and it could be in the work life. It could be in a group of friends. Well, obviously the person wouldn't be doing that if they're friends, and they are projecting emotionally manipulative behavior onto you. It could be any one of the 6 which I teach about: the oppressed victim, which relies on guilt; the savior, which relies on helplessness; the I'm too busy, which relies on fear of abandonment; the fault finder, which relies on shame; the imposer, which relies on a feeling of not fitting in or being rejected for not being good enough in some way; or the destroyer, which again, maybe this technique might not work well for that because the destroyer is a very dangerous entity, but it's about understanding yourself through another person's behavior. So I want to give you an example here of how I actually stumbled on this technique. Now, many years ago, I was a personal trainer for about 15 years, and I was working in this one particular gym, and it was awful. As soon as you walk through the door, everyone was miserable. It was just a really glum environment. Nobody really wanted to be there, except me. I loved the fitness world and I really wanted to build my career. And there was one particular member of staff who used to come and taunt me. Now, because I was still working through my own low self-esteem and my depression from the past, I had lots of vulnerabilities that could be exposed by other people using emotionally manipulative behavior. And this member of staff used to come in the gym and she'd say a couple of words here and a couple of words there. As soon as she noticed me emotionally trigger and feel self-conscious about what she'd say, she'd burst out laughing and then just walk off. So it was almost the equivalent of somebody walking in, punching you, and then walking out. And every time I used to see her walk through the door, because she was a member of staff, I couldn't stop her. But it was this underlying emotional abuse that you couldn't really articulate, but it used to really upset me. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that emotionally manipulative behavior hides in plain sight. The content or information in these videos is for educational and informational purposes only. So if I ever pulled her on what she was saying, she would just say, "No, I didn't mean that at all. You're taking it too personally." And then that will be the term of gaslighting, where one person denies another person's reality. So how is it then that we can use that to your advantage of growth? Well, one day she came in the gym and I was starting to get frustrated. She was constantly in my face, and it was in front of other people and members of the gym as well, constantly putting me down. And then one day she said this amazing phrase and she went, "Oh, Paul, you've got a face you can pick on." Then she burst out laughing and walked off. And in that moment in time, I was like, thank you so much. Because my question was always, when she walks in the gym, how is it that she can get under my skin? How is it that she can say a few words here and there and I just crumble? What is it that she sees in me that she knows that she can use emotional manipulative behavior on, but she doesn't do it to everybody else? And when she said that phrase, "Paul, you've got a face you can pick on," and I went home, and that's before mobile phones ever first came out. So I had an old video camera and I just sat in front of that camera and I talked and talked and talked and talked. And then as I was talking more and more, the one thing that I started to notice is that I had an anxious look on my face. So as I'm talking now, confident, but back in the day, I'd be kind of like looking like this and kind of have my shoulders up, and like that's how I would look. Now, here's the thing. This is where we will trigger with some people and not others. So when I was talking to members of the gym, I would be talking like I am now because they were not threatening to me in any way. They were not using emotional manipulative behavior. But when this particular member of staff came in, I'd start to notice my shoulders would go up and my eyes would go a bit wide, and I'd start kind of looking at the floor. And that was signaling to her that it was perfectly easy to crush my boundaries and mock me. And the one thing that I noticed as well is that it wasn't just her. It was other people in my life as well. So I thought, what if I'm actually doing this to all these other people, signaling to them that it's okay to push my boundaries because I won't fight back? Because if you see somebody who's kind of looking at the floor and looking really nervous, if that person was to use emotional manipulative behavior, they're looking for a vulnerable target, of which I was signaling I was. So to bring in summary of this video, how you can use other people's emotional manipulative behavior to help you grow is in that phrase that member of staff said, "Paul, you've got a face you can pick on." She'd actually told me what I was doing and what I was signaling to be able to manipulate my boundaries. So start to notice in your life now, if a person's using emotional manipulative behavior, where else is that showing up in your life? Because sometimes what we see online today is this person doing this to you? Well, here's 10 top tips to stop it from happening. Well, you might control it with one person, but if you're sending out a signal of one of those emotional vulnerabilities, if you stop it in one person, it'll show up somewhere else. It's about looking inside ourselves first and then dealing with the external reality. Okay, so I'll bring it to a close here, but as I always say, get your journal out, start writing everything down, look at all of the aspects of what other people are projecting onto you, look at how it's affecting you. How does it make you feel when you go through that cycle of being triggered by another person? And then also, is it showing up with just one person, or has that been showing up many different times in your life with other people? The more you become aware of your surroundings, both internally and externally, the more control you will have over what happens to you. So if you've got any suggestions, ideas, or thoughts or reflections on this, or things that you may have experienced in your own past where you've worked through this, feel free to put them in the comments below. And I always suggest people to put comments, especially if it's something close to the heart, but not obviously too personal if that feels a little bit too much. But you never know. Your comment could change somebody else's life forever.